Welcome to the Scottish Rite Journal podcast, an audio presentation of the Scottish Rite Journal, brought to you by the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite, Southern Jurisdiction, Mother Supreme Council of the World. This week's article is The Culture of Passover by Mark Dreisenstock, 32nd degree, KCCH, and comes from the March-April 2022 issue of the Scottish Rite Journal. The Feast of Passover, or Pesach in Hebrew, is an 8-day holiday in Judaism that has resonated far beyond Jewish tradition. Many know it as part of a sweeping and thrilling narrative by way of classic Hollywood director Cecil B. DeMille's two epic films, both called The Ten Commandments. The 1923 version was silent, but filmed using an early two-color Technicolor process that audiences found compelling. More importantly, the film drew its intertitles partially from truncated biblical text. As it came to pass, that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. While both films feature visually stunning sequences showing the parting of the Red Sea, the Passover sequences are equally striking. They are eerie, somber, and unforgettable, as the Israelites in Egyptian bondage are commanded to place lamb's blood on their doorposts so that the angel of death would pass over the house of the Israelites and only strike dead the firstborn of Egyptian household. Literature, too, has reflected upon Passover and the traditional Passover meal, or Seder. In The Rabbi of Bacharach, the poet Heinrich Heine, whom the German Quatuor Coronati Research Lodge periodical has identified as a Mason, penned a wonderful description of a Passover text called the Haggadah, meaning the telling, and its description of a mixture of legends of their forefathers, wondrous tales of Egypt, disputed questions of theology, prayers, and festival songs. During this feast, there is a grand supper, and even during the reading, there is, at specified times, tasting of the symbolical food, of Passover bread, while 4 cups of red wine are drunk. Mournfully merry, seriously gay, and mysteriously secret, as some old dark legend, is the character of this nocturnal festival, and the traditional singing intonation with which the Haggadah is read by the father, and now and then re-echoed in the chorus of the hearers, first thrills the inmost soul as with a shudder, then calms it as mother's lullaby, and again startles it so suddenly. Just as DeMille brings the Passover narrative into his cinematic age, so also did Heine into his era, blending Jewish history and lore with Germanic Rhine legends in his novel fragment of Romanticism. The solemn majesty of Passover has also been examined within the pages of the New Age magazine, as the Scottish Rite Journal once was known. 3 articles published in the periodical in the 1910s, 1950s, and 1980s discuss Passover within a Jewish context and, at the same time, within a Masonic framework. All of the writers emphasize the connection between Passover, Freemasonry, and aspirations of freedom. In Masonry and Passover, Rabbi Harry Silverstone, 32nd degree, writes that the spirit of Masonry and the spirit of Passover is one of liberty. Rabbi Silverstone's idea echoes the earlier views of Max Agris, 32nd degree, who writes in the June 1953 issue of The Miraculous Deliverance of the Israelites from the Bondage of Egypt by the Lawgiver, Moses, marked the beginning of human freedom in the world. Brother Agris's article is entitled The Feast of Passover Maundy Thursday, and the author focuses on this day in the Christian calendar that the Scottish Rite has taken on as its own. Scottish Rite Masons the world over assemble in holy conclave to celebrate Maundy Thursday and to partake of the Passover elements, the Paschal Lamb, the unleavened bread, and drink the wine of the Passover in commemoration of the blood which the Lord commanded the Israelites to strike upon the doorposts of their houses. Yet Brother Agris notes the Rose Croix degree of the Scottish Rite has as its focus that no Mason has the right to measure for another within the walls of the Masonic temple the degree of veneration which he shall have for any reformer or founder of any religion. He also notes the role of the Church in anti-Semitism, suggesting that through Passover and Maundy Thursday, there is a great hope of conciliation between the religions. In the New Age of March 1910, Brother Maurice Wolfe, 32nd degree, writes of Passover in terms of a priceless Jewish heritage, a lesson in faith and true world patriotism. Its perpetuation is a privilege sublime, while Rabbi Silverstone, and Heine before him, alludes to the members of the family attending the feast called the Seder. Brother Wolfe, in his article, The Passover, Religion Universal, Masonry, enters into greater detail as to how Masons accustomed to symbolism in its highest can appreciate to the full the several ideas for which the food articles of the Passover feast stand. Brother Wolfe expounds with some editorial clarifications in brackets kindly provided by Rabbi Saul Oreski of Mishkan Torah Synagogue in Greenbelt, Maryland. The 3 thick unleavened cakes, the bread of affliction and flight, the sprig of parsley, and the bowl of salt water, more properly, karpas, representing spring, can be parsley, celery, or lettuce. The water symbolizes the tears shed in slavery. Watercress and horseradish tops, for the bitter herbs. Horseradish, ground or raw, or even romaine lettuce, a mixture of nuts and apples, called haroset, emblematic of the crude clay, mortar, which the Israelites worked into bricks. A roasted bone, the paschal lamb. A roasted egg, the free will offering of the feast. Jugs and bottles of wine, symbols of hospitality and rejoicing, and more importantly, of sanctification, like on Shabbat and other holidays. And, that sweetest custom of all, the vacant chair and filled cup, awaiting the possible coming of the prophet Elijah. Brother Wolfe ends his article on an inspiring note, as true today as it was when it was written 112 years ago. For as Moses was the mediator and reconciler of the world, so shall Masonry continue and emphasize this work in our age. As Moses led a blind but willing people out of the darkness of national chaos into a national unity, so shall Masonry, Moses-like, lead a world of bigotry and sectarianism into an all-inclusive spirit of moral unity and mutuality. Any accompanying photographs or citations for this article can be found in the corresponding print edition. The Scottish Rite Journal is published by the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite, Southern Jurisdiction, Mother Supreme Council of the World. Mark Dreisenstock, 32nd degree, KCCH, Managing Editor. I'm your host, Matt Bowers.